Well, good morning and welcome to our week 6 of our 100 Days of Prayer. I hope you are enjoying this time with the Lord as much as I am. Last week we celebrated Easter, which was the ultimate rescuing story, how God sent His own Son to the earth, who died on a cross, came back to life to provide our ultimate deliverance and a path and access to Him. We also know that not only does God rescue us from our sin, but He calls us to be His agents of rescuing. Last week when we were together in our video, we talked about Moses' call from God in the burning bush and how God had called him to rescue the children of Israel out of bondage from Egypt. This week we continue a little bit with that story. A few chapters later, the rescue's going quite nicely. They've successfully left Egypt. God has been providing for them in the wilderness. And Moses' father-in-law comes to visit, brings Moses' wife and his children. And Moses recaps for him all that God has done for the children of Israel. And then we see an interesting conversation that probably is familiar to you. After they've been visiting for a while, Moses, his father-in-law notices that Moses is very hurried, very stressed, very overwhelmed because how he has placed him as the central judge of all of the issues and disputes in the children of Israel. Well, I'm going to pick up in verse 14 of this conversation. When his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, "What is this you're doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge while all these people stand around you morning till evening?" Moses answered, "Because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever there's a dispute, it's brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decrees and instructions." Moses' father-in-law replied, "What you're doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone." Sort of interesting in that passage, we would automatically believe and assume that the rescuing that God called Moses to and that Moses is doing is a good thing, and yet in the midst of this good thing, his father-in-law says it's not good. And he basically says, "You're taking on too much. You can't do this job by yourself." You know, God calls us to be agents of His rescuing. He calls us to reach out, to draw others to Himself, to assist, to do the renewing and restoring work that He's called all of us Christians to do together. And yet, how often do we try to do it by ourselves? My challenge to you this week is similar to Moses' father-in-law's challenge to Moses. Don't try to do it by yourself. Obviously, turn to the Lord as your ultimate source of help and strength. But even more than that, turn to your brothers and sisters. There are tasks, whether you're working at Point University or somewhere else, there are tasks that you may call to do that is just too much for you. It's okay to ask somebody to join in and help. And what about if you're on the other side and you see one of your brothers and sisters, whether at work or in life, struggling and they can't seem to make it on their own? Well, guess what? It's because they can't make it on their own. They need you. They need me to step in and help. So this week, as you go about the work of rescuing and reaching out to others, as you notice others that are struggling, would you come alongside them and offer to help so that God can use you to help share and bear the burden so His work can ultimately be accomplished? Have a great week.